Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to do something a little bit different because we are going to be doing a book haul. And the reason why I say this is different is because this is different for me. I know I just started this channel, I know I don't have a lot of videos yet, but you gotta understand that I don't typically buy a lot of books at the same time. I usually buy one every so often, whatever fits in the budget that month. So this is quite novel for me. Pardon the pun. And so I'm quite excited to do a video like this. I actually found a gift card that got lost in my desk, and I found out that there's quite a bit of money on it, so I was actually able to get 5 books. Here's the pile here. This is what we will be discussing today. And this first book, when I saw it, I thought, man, doesn't that cover look beautiful? It looks so interesting with all the different gears and gadgets on it. And the couple falling. It sounds so, or looks so cool rather. So this book is called Crosstalk, as you can see, by Connie Willis. This was nominated for Best Science Fiction in 2016 on Goodreads. So it's not a new book by any means, but it's new to me. Books don't have to be new to be interesting, good, or enjoyable. So I'm quite excited to bring this book to you guys today. This particular book has 3.55 out of 5 stars on Goodreads with over 12,000 ratings and nearly 2,500 reviews, so that's pretty good. And like I mentioned, it is a science fiction. It's also a romantic comedy, and it also says fantasy here, so that should be interesting how that is incorporated all together. I've never actually read a sci-fi rom-com before, so this is something new. This is a new genre fusion for myself. But without much further ado, let's actually check out to see what the storyline is. So on the back of the book, it says, in the not-too-distant future, a simple operation to increase empathy between romantic partners has become all the rage, and Bridie Flanagan is delighted when her boyfriend suggests undergoing the procedure prior to a marriage proposal, to maximize their emotional connection. But things don't quite work out as planned, and Bridie finds herself trapped in an intimate psychic link with someone else entirely, placing her privacy and her patience, and possibly her sanity, at risk. As things go from bad to worse, Bridie begins to see the dark side of too much information, and to realize that love and communication are far more complicated than she ever imagined. Now, apparently this talks about empathy, and they call it a technological fairy tale about empathy in relationships. So I think this sounds really, really fascinating. I think there's going to be some speculative aspects to this particular book because it kind of sounds like it's going to be commenting on social media and its role in romantic relationships or in relationships in general, how being in the information age can sometimes be a detriment in certain situations and how one should really navigate that in order to maintain healthy boundaries. So this sounds really promising to me. I hope it's about those things. It might not be at all. But this does sound and look really, really interesting. It also says it's a satire right here. It says, a sci-fi rom-com satire for the 21st century, firing broadsides at our dependency on high-tech gadgetry and social media. There you go, just what I said. That's awesome, and that's by The Guardian. This is probably going to be at the top of my list. I'm saying that right now. But let's see what other books I have here. Sorry for the light, by the way. The sun is currently rising, so we gotta deal with that a little bit. This next book here has recently, I believe recently, because when I first found this book, it had not already been a part of the Reese Witherspoon book club, and it is now being turned into a major motion picture. So I'm excited to read the book and then actually watch the movie afterward. This book is called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This one has been all over social media recently. And by recently, I mean like the past year or two. It actually won a Goodreads Choice Award, or rather was nominated for one for Best Fiction in 2017, but it has come back and people are enjoying it. And people have enjoyed it a lot, actually. This one has 4.24 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, with over 1 million ratings and over 93, almost 94,000 reviews. That's wild. absolutely wild. I have never seen a book like that on Goodreads. So that's huge. That's fascinating. People must love this book. And I can actually see why, because the genres that are listed here are mental health as well as romance and literary fiction. I love books that talk about mental health. I love something that is a little bit more profound and self-aware and is about character development. I love that. I think that's so much fun to read, and I often learn a lot from it too. Not only as a reader, but also as someone who enjoys writing. So that is something that I'm very much looking forward to here. Let's see what the blurb says, shall we? No one's ever told Eleanor that life should be better than fine. Meet Eleanor Oliphant. She struggles with appropriate social skills and tends to say exactly what she's thinking. Nothing is missing in her carefully timetabled life, where weekends mostly consist of frozen pizza, vodka, and phone chats with Mummy. But everything changes when Eleanor meets Raymond, the bumbling IT guy from her office, whose big heart will ultimately help Eleanor find the way to repair her own profoundly damaged one. Smart, warm, and uplifting, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine is the story of an out-of-the-ordinary heroine whose deadpan weirdness and wit make for an irresistible journey as she realizes the only way to survive is to open your heart. That last paragraph there in the blurb is something that really caught my eye. Deadpan weirdness and wit. I love that kind of humor. So I really, really hope that that humor is evident here, because this sounds like a really good palate cleanser. You know those books that you want to read that are a little bit lighter between your heavy reads? That's what this sounds like, only with maybe a little bit more meat. I am so very much looking forward to this. Definitely. Our next book is actually the second book in a series. The series is called L'Allégorie des Truites Arc-en-Ciel, and the first book was actually called that too. And that particular series was a Quebecois, I think it was young adult series? At least it gave young adult vibes. I don't think it was young adult, but it gave young adult vibes to me. And it was basically about these two characters, Max and Cam, who liked each other and they were scared to admit it to each other. And it's a romance, so obviously they finally did. And it was a little bit cringe, I must say, especially the ending. The ending was so cringeworthy. But I did not really feel like a sequel was warranted. And when that happens, I want to read or see the sequels because I want to see how it is approached thematically and also technically. So that is what I did here. This particular book is called La Floraison des Nénuphars by Marie-Christine Chartier. This is some beautiful Quebecois literature. I quite enjoy Quebecois literature. It is so different from Anglo-Canada and its literature, so I'm excited to explore some more of it. This cover is also beautiful, and it's got some great plot factor. Although I must say the font is rather large, and I feel like that seems to be a common element of Quebecois books. This book has actually gotten quite high reviews on Goodreads. It has 4.3 out of 5 stars out of over 2,800 ratings and 279 reviews. This particular book has the genres of romance and fiction, but let's see what that story actually is. So, on the back it reads, 4 années se sont écoulées depuis que Cam et Max ont eu le courage de s'avouer qu'ils étaient plus que des amis. À présent, ils forment un couple et ont quitté Québec pour Montréal. Max a commencé un emploi prestigieux, attiré par un patron qui a su lui insuffler une belle confiance. Mais avec ses nouvelles ambitions, vient une charge de travail énorme. Bien malgré lui, il néglige les autres aspects de sa vie, dont sa relation avec Cam. Coincé, Max se demande s'il doit vraiment choisir entre sa réussite professionnelle et l'épanouissement de son couple. Ooh, sounds sad. Cam, elle, est parvenue à publier un premier roman. De plus, sa sœur Sophie est revenue vivre au Québec, ce qui lui a enfin permis de se rapprocher d'elle. Toutefois, Cam doit composer avec un deuil éprouvant. S'ajoute à cela sa difficulté à accepter que sa relation amoureuse a beaucoup changé. Cam et Max nagent en eau trouble. Eux qui ont toujours cru que la plus difficile était de se déclarer leur amour sont rendus à la prochaine étape, celle de la passion à entretenir. La question pour eux n'est donc plus « doit-on prendre le risque d'aimer ?» mais plutôt « comment fait-on pour que l'amour perdure ?» Okay, this one actually sounds a lot more profound than the first one. The first one, like I said, had some young adult vibes, and there weren't a lot of complex topics or themes explored in that book either. This one sounds a little bit more mature, and that maturity is something that I'm definitely looking forward to, and I feel like the story was needing. So that's actually a good thing. And it sounds like there's going to be a little bit more than just romance too. There's going to be some elements of maybe, sibling relationship dynamics, how one's job, one's profession fits in a relationship, how you balance those things, what that work-life balance could be or can be. It sounds like there's definitely going to be some interesting storyline here. This next book here is another beautiful book, and it's really tactile as well. The title actually has some nice three-dimensional quality to it. It's called In a Thousand Different Ways by Cecilia Ahern. Ahern? Pardon me if I've mispronounced that last name. This particular book has 4.13 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and the genres are contemporary fiction as well as Ireland, so that's a little bit of an Irish story, which is cool, and fantasy. Empathetic and highly sensitive, Alice reads other people's moods in a heartbeat. She sees both the worst and the best in everyone without them having to say a word. But growing up, Alice's gift marks her out as disruptive, an oddity. She and her brothers live in dread of their mother's unpredictable temper, of whether there will be food in the house or bills paid. And despite her being desperate to find her own way in the world, she is instead pulled tighter into the embrace of the family she feels so ambivalent about. A family even Alice can't always see the best in. Until a tiny seed of an idea starts to germinate. Until a chain of events means Alice starts to trace out her own way forward. And until, in a tiny flat perched high above the noise and bustle of London, she begins to figure out how to find her own path. There, the journey to see herself can finally begin. This sounds really good to me. This sounds like maybe a medium weight read where they definitely talk about mental health, or at least I assume that they definitely will, if you can even say something's definite, if it's an assumption. And I also feel like it's going to talk a lot about family dynamics, obviously, and that's something that I am really into at the moment. And I think this actually, maybe I'll pick this up sooner than I thought I would, maybe even before crosstalk, because I'm kind of in the mood to read this type of book at the moment. Something medium weight, something family oriented, something about, emotional intelligence. This sounds really good to me. And it's got some good flop factor too. The font's a little big, but that's okay. It's not that bad. This one should actually be a pretty good read. Lastly here, moving on, we have a Heather's Pick from Indigo. And this is also an Apple TV or Apple Plus. I never remember the name of that streaming platform. There are way too many streaming platforms out there. But on Apple TV, or whatever it's called, this is now a limited series, I think, with Brie Larson, actually, so big name. It is Lessons in Chemistry. So I'm sure if you are privy to what's going on social media in the literary space, you have seen this book before. This book is all over Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTube, etc. It is so incredibly popular. It has 4.31 out of 5 stars. It was nominated for Best Historical Fiction of 2022 and actually won for Best Debut Novel in 2022. So it is a multi-award winner. It's also historical fiction. It has themes of feminism, and they say it's a really good book for a book club, and it's also humorous. So that's exciting. I love books that are funny, and I love books that are also good for book clubs, because that means that they have more meat to their bones, and therefore there's a lot more things to glean from it, a lot more things to learn from it, a lot more things to, explore and navigate from within the story. So, to me, that sounds exciting. Definitely sounds exciting. So let's see what this is actually about. On the back, it says, Chemist Elizabeth Zott is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Zott would be the first to point out that there's no such thing as an average woman. But it's the early 1960s, and her all-male team at Hastings Research Institute takes a very unscientific view of equality. Except for one, Calvin Evans, the lonely, brilliant, Nobel Prize-nominated grudge holder who falls in love with, of all things, her mind. true chemistry results. So it's also obviously a romance. It's gotta be. Like science, though, life is unpredictable, which is why a few years later Elizabeth Zott finds herself not only a single mother, but also the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at 6. Elizabeth's unusual approach to cooking, combine 1 tablespoon acetic acid with a pinch of sodium chloride, proves revolutionary. But as her following grows, not everyone is happy, because, as it turns out, Elizabeth Zott isn't just teaching women to cook, she's daring them to change the status quo. This sounds so good. So good. And if we look at the actual format of the book, excellent plot factor again. And this one does not have too big of a font. This is actually the perfect size for me. And yeah, it's a good one. This one looks like it's going to be comfortable to read. Plus, it's got a really nice texture to it too. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe this surface. It is a little bit tactile here with the design all over, not only with the title, but also the hair and the pencil and the glasses. But it's got this really nice sort of soft, gooey is a terrible word here because it's not gooey, but it's really soft and pleasant to touch and feel and to hold in your hands. Like, that feels good. It's a really nice choice. Also, I have seen a lot of controversy, shall we say, about the actual color of this book and how the author does not like the fact that this is pink. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this pink to you? To me, this is like an orange-based coral. And I understand that coral is orange and pink together, but some lend more toward pink, some lend more toward orange. And I think this lends more to orange. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know in the comments below what books you want to read, what you think are interesting, and if I were to summarize here which ones I'm going to read next, probably In 1,000 Different Ways by Cecilia Ahern. I thought it was going to be Crosstalk by Connie Willis, but I am in the mood for In 1,000 Different Ways. I want some of that family dynamic. I want some of that, you know, emotional empathy, mental health conversation. I think that is going to be something that really feeds my soul in this moment. I look forward to talking to you again next time, and until then, bye for now.